Welcome, everyone. And again, welcome to our Connected Accounting series, where we talk with different professionals about the best practices as well as technology adoption. What is it that they're doing to, first of all, make their work more rewarding for themselves and their teams, but also for the company. So the goal is really to share in the series the stories of what we call the unsung heroes, the people in accounts receivable and accounts payable that really keeps cash flow going and business operating. Today, Matt Long from AmSpec will share their story of AR automation. AmSpec became a customer of Lockstep Collect back in February of 2019. Thank you, Matt, for joining us. But before we jump in and talk about kind of your journey, I noticed in your background, Matt Long Live, and asked you about that. Yeah, I'd love to kind of have you share that story. That was great.
Oh yeah, sure. And thank you guys for having me. It's a great honor to be able to speak on behalf of our company today. But yeah, I'm coming to you from my house here in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, and my wife set me up in front of some pictures here, so it looked a little bit more presentable. But yeah, that's a picture from my actual wedding. I had wanted to play the first song I ever played to my wife. I have a band, and we used to do shows out, and they would used to call it Matt Long Live. So I decided to play Stubborn Love from the Lumineers at the wedding. And I was hoping it was just going to be like something during dinner and, kind of just a blip and something for just her and I. And it was the band's idea that we had for the wedding to play it after the dessert time where everybody was coming back to the dance floor. And it turned out to be the whole band playing along with me and everybody at the wedding standing, just singing right back at me. So that's actually a picture from behind where the band was at, looking out over the wedding, and all of our friends and family singing along. So it was a pretty incredible experience. So she framed that and we have that in the house. So.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I know you've invited us into your home to talk about kind of your experiences in AR automation. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about AmSpec.
Sure. AmSpec is an oil, gas, chemical, and agricultural testing company. We are stationed out of Cranberry, New Jersey. That's our world headquarters. We're currently on 6 continents and ever growing. When I started with the company about 8 years ago, we were mainly in North America, the United States, and just kind of started in Canada. And since then, we put a footprint across the world in a rather short period of time. So, we're big. We more or less any type of products of oil, gas, chemical, or agri, or moved, stored, or sold off. We are on the front end and back end of that, inspecting the quantity and quality of the products that are being moved or stored. So it's a really interesting industry, one I didn't know about when I started here, and it's an older industry, one that's kind of been stuck in their ways for a long time. So we've I think as a company have tried to be on the forefront of moving us into the next generation. So it's been a pleasure working here and it's been about 8 years, and I've watched us grow and develop over that time, and have been able to help implement in some things that we put in place to drive us to the new generation. So it's been an interesting journey so far. When I'm looking forward to the next few years on. So
maybe you can talk a little bit about the role of your team.
Sure. We have currently we now have three people in our AR team in the Northeast or North America, handling about anywhere in any given month $70 to $80 million worth of AR. There's roughly about 1,200 unique to 1,600 unique customers that they're dealing with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And we do roughly about $26 to $27 million in sales each month. So it's a pretty dense bucket of business that they're collecting on, and very few of them. So and most of them are newer now too. We ran for a really long time with only 1 or 2 people in that department, and we've always managed somehow to keep around an industry standard of day sales outstanding somehow. But we're a privately held company, so cash flow is incredibly important to us as we especially continue to grow. And so we highly monitor our cash intake on a monthly basis, daily basis even, and make decisions based off of how well our working capital is kind of functioning on how we develop and grow the business. So it's a small team, relatively small team, and relatively new team, and they've done a great job at kind of latching on to technology to be able to leverage their time the most effective way they possibly could.
Interesting. And what were the business drivers when you thought about, considering this? What was leading you to think about, using AR automation?
Well, number one, we were using a kind of an archaic tool to we've always known that we were going to run a small team and we needed to leverage our time in the most efficient and way we possibly could. For one person to sit and send spreadsheets to 1,200 people every month, it's just impossible. So we've been looking for ways to automate our business. Luckily, in the past, a very small percentage of our customers made up a very large bucket of our AR, but as we've grown, that percentage has kind of shrunk a little bit. So we needed a way to be able to maintain contact with our smaller customers who are obviously just as important and have just as much cash that could help drive a lower DSO on a more timely manner as opposed to every couple of months. So we started using our BI tool out of an Excel add-in, and we utilize Sage X3. I think we spoke about that before, but that's our accounting software, middle of the road kind of ERP, and we have a BI tool called Nectari that points at our databases in X3. So we were able to utilize this Nectari system to schedule and send out statements to some of these smaller customers. The problem with it, and the main problem we found with it, is contact management, and it was all of impossible. Every one of the files that needed to be sent had to themselves be kept an upkeep of the record of who was in those scheduled reports to go out. So it became very cumbersome. It was a slow process too. It would override or overrun our servers. So we had to maintain different days and times that we would send these things out, and it just became too cumbersome. So we were looking for some sort of tool to optimize how we mainly handled all of our contact management, but also one that we could utilize a scheduler to send out statements on a timely manner, way more effectively than what we were doing currently. So hence led us to the Anytime Collect product.
So, that it brings up a good question. I think in a lot of ways you were more advanced than most organizations in the sense that you saw a need for automation. You decided to build it yourself. One of the things that we'll do is just take a quick pause here. We've got a number of people on the line just to do a quick poll survey. One of the most frequent things that we see is that people are using Outlook and Excel to manage this process. So I'd like to get a quick survey of our attendees of kind of, had they put in automation already? Love to see that. So it's we do have a mix of customers and people who are new to Lockstep. So we're seeing about a 50-50 split between, people using Outlook and Gmail versus using AR automation. So hopefully, for those on the call that might not have AR automation, Matt's experience will be able to kind of shed some light on the impact it's had. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Matt, you brought up the question about contact management, and that one of the challenges that Nectari was having in just that approach. Can you delve into that a little bit more? I mean, I'd love to understand what kind of the issues were and how you decided to try and tackle that.
Well, we had really, I would say, a couple issues with our contact management. Our company, as we've grown, we've tried to develop new products that, especially in the technology side, where that we could drive innovation, especially with our customers, and be kind of on the forefront on some of the things that their needs kind of entailed. And so one of those things was we needed to develop an execution system that was a job order to invoicing type solution, which at the time when we developed it, we didn't have such a solution, and one that really would be something that most of our larger customers in the oil and gas field needed, and we weren't able to produce those kinds of things. So so we started developing that AIM system. In that AIM system, we housed all of our actual contacts, if you will, with our customers. It was one of those that usually whenever the customer was set up, we would put in all of the proper contacts with them. On our side, we call them schedulers. That's the contact we have within our customers. So we would set up all of the different scheduler information, email addresses, phone numbers, but there were many people that had opportunities to create those in the AIM system initially on. So it was kind of put together in a haphazard type way. It was never shared with other people in the company. People who had access to that system would be able to find them if they needed to, but it was just that everything was so spread out. So we had a real collective effort, especially when we implemented the Lockstep product, was to kind of centralize where all of our contacts were maintained. And because we use our X3 system as our more or less Bible for all of our accounting systems, houses all of our dimensional records, all of our GL information, which we share out with all these other systems. We're like, why are we not sharing our customers and our contact information from our X3 system? So when we decided to implement this program, we decided that we would also do an overhaul of how we set up all of our customers. So now, if a new job is created for a customer we never had in our system before, we developed a full long get to know your customer type sheet, and on it gives not only the customer's contacts for schedulers, but also their AP contacts, their best practice for receiving statements and their invoices, and that is shared with accounting, and it is also entered in our X3 system, so it mirrors our AIM system, and we do a reconciliation every couple months to make sure that all contacts in both are still valid and the same. So doing that, we were able to then leverage the contacts in our X3 system to kind of speak and sync with the ATC system. So instead of us having to maintain those contacts in 4, 5, 6 different places and also not knowing where to look for them, we've now put them all in one place. We also we've implemented SharePoint as well, where we keep all of the contracts and contact information in SharePoint, but everyone has access to these things now. So if somebody's looking for something, they know where to find it. And in relatively an easy manner. And then the upkeep of it is incredibly easy because it's only fixing it in one spot and it all syncs from there on out. So that was our challenge. And it was, once we kind of had this solution in place, it focused our efforts to make sure that we were doing it in a way more efficient manner. So.
Yeah, it's interesting, getting clean, the better your contact data is, the more you can automate, right? I mean, it's just kind of a cornerstone to being able to do that.
Yeah, and that brings up another point I think that I think I forgot on this whole thing, is that the data that we also had when it came to contacts was not what I would call optimal. We had a bunch of different scheduler information. We had maybe an AP contact here and there. And especially when we implemented ATC, we wanted what I would call the proper contact that would be, in my opinion, somebody in the AP department, where they're receiving the statement, they speak the same accounting language as the AR side does. They're not a scheduler who's an oil guy who's out there doing, testing barrels of oil and doesn't really understand the accounting functionality here, and leads to more bottlenecks and operational problems and customer relation problems, because they're not the right person to be seeing these types of things. And they may have already approved something a long time ago and it just never made it through the proper channels of AP and Treasury for payment. So initially we had the challenge to overcome finding the proper contacts, which we did a really, really good job, I think, on our end of putting in the initial effort to find those really good contacts. That was via phone calls to the corporate offices. That was initially sending our blast directly to the schedulers with a statement and saying, hey, caution, I know this might not be for you, but I need you to tell me the right person to send this to. And so where we had maybe 20 to 30% of good contacts when we initially started this whole thing out. We were able to leverage that the scheduler system to find these better contacts, and then also on top of that do phone calls to flip that whole percentage over to more like 70-75% really good contacts. 25 to 30% maybe aren't the best yet, but we're still working on it. So it's an ever evolving contact list. But because we did that, we immediately found such more great success in leveraging the system, the scheduler system, because we knew it was going to the right contact. And all of a sudden, we weren't speaking to most of these customers anymore, because they're never coming up on an AR list, because they're receiving their open statements and they're paying them on a timely manner. So no one's having to speak to them. So as it goes to leveraging time, for our people, putting that initial effort in was helped us in spades.
That's great to hear. What is, one of the things that people think about in terms of automation is, what will the customer response be? Especially like big customers. Big customers will say, no, I don't want, don't email me, et cetera. What did you find that, or what was your experience?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because in our industry, it's like as I said in the beginning, it's a very archaic type industry, and one where, as the old guard is kind of retiring and moving out, there's a younger new guard that's kind of coming in. But if you speak to the old guard, you don't contact these customers. You don't bother them with these types of things. These are customer service issues. We're all about our customer and operation side of our business. Very hesitant to have anybody in accounting ever speaking to somebody in operations. And sometimes we don't really want to either, but it's a necessary evil sometimes. But the initial, I guess, argument on our side, especially from our operations side of our company, was we don't really know how we feel about this. Especially the largest customers we have, there's about 50 or 60 of them, I would say, that are very unique in how they do their business. They have their own platforms where you submit invoicing, what have you. So sending them an automated statement was just nothing. It was unheard of, let's put it that way. So we kind of just did it the way operations told us we should, not cause any type of customer service issue, and not do anything different that was going to shock them. Well, when we initially sent out our initial blasts, we decided, screw that, we're going to try everybody and just see what happens. And the overwhelming response was positive. There are a few here and there where you'll have I don't know why I'm getting this, I don't need it, but you can maybe contact this person. So that was usually kind of the response. It was never really met with anger or any kind of different indifference. It was met with I might not be the right person, let me help you out here. And some of these people, I think, understood as you sold it to them that this was going to actually save them time, and they were going to get less contacts sent to them incorrectly, and they were not going to have to look at some of these things, because we were never talking to them about it anymore. So we still have about 20-25 customers at this point that we still do things on via spreadsheet, ad hoc, if you will. But for the most part, we were able to actually transition over a good deal of those customers that in the past it would have been unheard of to ever do something like this, and they met it with open arms. And most of them were like, why haven't we been doing this for a long time? So we also utilize the ability to load our invoices into the AT system. So when we do send out our statements to our customers, we do give them a link to their portal. A lot of them do like the ability that they can download their invoices directly from the portal. And one other thing we actually implemented through our AIM system was a link, hyperlink, where they can actually download any supporting data from the invoice. So now where a customer may have to come to us, send a bunch of emails, maybe not even know who to on our side, they can actually go in, click a link, find it, download it, print out all the backup data they need, and approve something in a matter of minutes that sometimes could have taken them days or weeks to get. And especially in this industry, especially how fast things move, if you have somebody who's willing to take a look at something right now, especially when it comes to paying an invoice, and you hesitate to get it back to them, well, good luck. It's going to be a long time trying to get them to think about this again. So having something where they can just get it at their fingertips was a huge selling point to some of our larger customers.
Interesting. That's great feedback. And that's a lot of what we hear is that sometimes just asking, because a customer can say no, but a lot of them are finding out the convenience of it. Along those lines, now, AmSpec, as you mentioned, is a global company, and that you've got operations, in all the different regions. Now, my understanding is that you've rolled out Lockstep Collect both in North America, but also in Europe. I'd be curious to kind of understand, how that went and kind of what you did to prepare for that.
Sure. Yeah, we have it. We broke Europe into two different divisions, or two different sectors, if you will. We have one person overseeing what we call Western Europe, and one calling overseeing Europe. So we actually created two different credit classes, one for the each of those two different sectors that we put together. But yeah, we had a little bit of due diligence we needed to do in the first place, mainly because obviously with multi-languages, we needed to make sure that any kind of information we were sending to the customers was in compliance with how they wanted to receive any kind of correspondence. So some locations we had to make sure that we had an English and say a Spanish version of what we were sending out to the customers. Obviously, there's with the multi-language, you also have the multi-currency type issue. So we had some things we needed to work through with it. Some things we had to maybe just kind of just deal with as a system limitation, but at the end result, we were able to unroll these in a relatively quickly manner. I would say it took us a couple weeks worth of setting up proper customers and making sure integrations were all there, and then from there, it's just been a pretty simple process. So we're looking to get our Asia Pacific group on in the next coming months. We have all of the diligence kind of done with them. It's a matter of just to update us on their contact information. We're just going to keep rolling from there. So anybody who really, our grand, plan is anybody who does any of their billing out of our AIMS execution system, which is about 3/4 of our company, who then also uses our X3 system, which is also the same amount of people, would then entail use ATC as their collection software tool. So we've had great success with it. It's helped lower our DSO in Europe as well as in the United States. So we're looking forward to getting everybody involved in it. So
great. And so, how do you measure success? I mean, after rolling this out and implementing it, what is it that you looked at and said this was successful?
Well, we like I said before, we're a privately held company, private equity company. We're growing, so we're obviously, a company that needs positive cash flow to, continue to put, our plans into action. So we look at working capital on a daily, monthly, weekly, maybe hourly basis sometimes. And so we look at the DSO calculation, and that's really our barometer for how well our cash collection generation is taking place. So before we implemented the ATC system, I think we ended the year of 2018, which we implemented this early in 19, with about a 72 to 73 day DSO. Industry standard is 60 to 63. And so we were finding, like I said before, the issue we were having was not with our larger customers. They kind of always took care of themselves, but our smaller customers, we had no touch points to. We're starting to grow in size of AR. So we implemented this early 2019. We probably started sending out the initial blast middle of the year. By the end of 2019, I would say we had a really good system in place. We had some new employees who were actually utilizing the system, the way I would envision them using it. And then, so in the year of 2020, obviously we know what occurred, but we started that year with a 72-day DSO, and ended last year at 63 days, which in a time where we didn't even know if we were going to reach out to somebody and they were going to have their doors open, we were able to reduce DSO 9 days, which in our world almost brought $10 million worth of working capital back into our doors. And it's maintained that too. So it's not that we just reduced it and we had a good end of the year. It was a slow, gradual decrease in DSO, a couple days each month, but then they maintained. And that was always my concern, was we would have an initial jump, and then we may see a regression, and we never saw that, and we still haven't. And so it's and now we're fully, what I would say, fully staffed, and we're seeing even greater results from the thing. So yeah, we measured in real dollars, and in real dollars, it meant a lot to us in that time frame. So
that's great. And final question, we're kind of, this has been a great understanding, and kind of your story has been really insightful. One of the questions, though, we like to ask is, what advice would you give to other people considering AR automation now that you've done
it? Do it. I mean, let's put it this way. There's a lot of legwork, I think, and that's the stuff that no one really wants to do. And it's easy to not change and continue to do what you've done in the past because it kind of was working. And in theory, we could have continued to do what we were doing and probably still be doing okay. But there was a lot of effort that we undertook to kind of make this a thing of the future for us, and one that we can replicate. And that's the thing, I think, that more than anything, we unfortunately, because of how intensive this position was, have had turnover in the past few years, because people come in and realize this is a lot of work. So my goal was to make sure that we can continue to retain good employees. And one of those things is, let's not inundate them with a bunch of work that is almost below them. And to me, sending out spreadsheets all day long with somebody who is an educated person who has a great ability to speak with people and build relationships. And to me, all those are the important parts of doing an AR. They were now being inundated with doing a bunch of clerical work, and we were losing them because of it. And so implementing something like this, where we can leverage a computer's strength to do a bunch of things that it would take 10, 15 people to do, and be able to put our people's skills into work in a place where I think they're more needed, has led to great success too. And 3 really happy employees we have right now too. I had a long call with them this morning on some things that we're training, and that you can just see the difference in the mentality we have now, because they're not doing these things anymore. And they actually look forward to these blasts going out, that when we call them, our AR blasts, when we do them every 2 weeks. They actually look forward to them because they know they're going to have a bunch of emails kind of coming into them, and they'll be busy for a couple of days, and they'll get to talk to some people that they've been building these relationships with, and they seem happier when these things happen. So it's been, I mean, we have nothing but great things to say about what we've been able to do with this whole thing, and it's definitely, to me, I think, especially as companies run smaller and tighter teams like we do, if you don't have some sort of automation tool when it comes to these things, like I don't know how you're going to exist. So we had to do that, and it's helped us with overhead and all those types of things, and yeah. So I guess a long-winded answer to I think you have to. I think it's just one of those things. I think you have to at some point look into automating how you do these things, because you can hire some people now and put their skills into a good use, as opposed to doing a bunch of spreadsheet sending, type thing. So,
well, Matt, thank you very much for sharing your story today. You gave us a lot of depth. It's fantastic to be able to hear what you've accomplished, and we've enjoyed working with you. So we look forward to continued success together.
Yeah. And one last thing I'll just leave with whoever I guess would be prospective clients as well. And then this is just Lockstep's not asking me to say this, but I will say, as I've implemented many systems, especially at with our company as we've grown, and when it comes to a teammate, if you will, and someone that's willing to listen to you and kind of help develop their tool around things that you need, because a lot of the automation we did was very specific, and ones that weren't maybe out of the box opportunities that maybe even Lockstep has thought of, worked very hand in hand with us in creating what we kind of needed in order to be able to make this tool beneficial to us. And so when it comes to that, I thank them just really for the the continued support. I mean, we see stuff with back and forth with our IT guys every single day where things might not be up to snuff, but the response time and the ability to help out when something is necessary is we don't see it with any of our other software providers. That's for sure. So, you know, just put that out there.
Well, thank you for the kind words. So I hope today you found the session valuable to all those who attended. And, you know, please join us again. In a couple more weeks, we'll have another customer come on and share their story as well. Thank you, Matt, and thank you for everyone who attended.